I started the Daisy Programme myself 5 years ago, in June actually, and there was a niche at the time. There was lack of outreach services in Breckland, so I decided to set the Daisy Programme up myself. I self-funded it for the first 15 months, and then over the last 5 years it's grown and grown. In that time we've received over 600 referrals, mainly women we support, but we do work with men. In fact, we would like more men to come forward because there is abuse within relationships with men and women, etc. So it's been a real labour of love, to be honest, because there's been a lot of work going into it to keep it going, keep it funded, and attract people to come and talk, because there is still such a stigma around domestic abuse.
In terms of the football club, how did that sort of come about?
We have a very good relationship with Breckland Council, and they've been hugely supportive of our work since we started. So for me, that's really nice to have that confidence in the local community that the council are willing to support us. So it's been a relationship that's grown, and I can't thank them enough, for the communities team especially, for giving us this opportunity today to come along and be at the ground and be involved with the Dereham Town Football Club. I think to have this message and this working together is absolutely brilliant, because very much the stigma of abuse goes on for years. You can be in a relationship for 6 months, 6 years, 20 years and never say anything. And the fact that we want to normalise it, and I think the fact that a football club, which is mainly male dominated, where unfortunately currently perpetrators are mainly male, will absolutely give out that message that abuse is not acceptable in any of its forms, and that we need to have that conversation, we need to have that education piece, and we really need to come together to make it a conversation that you would have every day, as you would any other conversation, and not to be shamed, embarrassed, or to believe that it's your fault. A lot of our clients believe it's completely their fault that they are where they are, and if they'd done things differently, it wouldn't have happened, but sadly that's not the case. Sure, so we're going to have a presence here. We're going to be able to deliver training in time and drop-ins, and hopefully training other people that can come to the club. We're also going to be working with the football club to educate the young lads about what abusive relationships are, because they're at their prime of their life, starting their adult relationships, and it will be about getting them to understand what healthy relationships are, and that abuse comes in many forms, and sometimes you don't even know you're being abusive, because it may be something you've seen in your own home, in your own upbringing, so you have no idea what's normal. So we're hoping that would really help break that stigma and really make that education something that we can do across the piece. Again, it's about having that conversation, watching out for us on our social media. We have a hub in Watton, which we've been in for 18 months. Sadly, with the virus, that's meant people can't come in quite like they used to, but hopefully one day we'll be back to full strength. And I think within Daisy, because it's still quite small, we have a real niche in the fact that all of us are connected. I have a great team behind me of trustees, staff and fabulous volunteers as well. And we've always got lots of chats going on WhatsApp, different activities going on, book clubs, art group, which is brilliant, choir. Everything that goes on is very community based, and we're always there for each other. And I'm very lucky to have been able to get to Daisy where it is today, and it's through that work with them. Well, we've been quite inventive, as many people have had to be in this circumstance, and we've popped all our stuff on Zoom. So we were lucky to get some funding from the Office of the Police Crime Commissioner to provide tablets for people that can't use or don't have laptops at home. So we've been busy getting those out into the community so that we're able to include people, so they can come on a coffee morning. We're starting yoga next week online. They can come along to the art group, the coffee mornings, as I said. So we're still doing training as well. We're thinking of doing freedom programs in the evening. So it's very much about keeping the momentum going and keeping that connection. It's really key for us that people can come into the hub still. We socially distance following all of the government guidelines, but people are in crisis and they want to come in, and they have been coming in. We offer food bank vouchers, and we often have deposits of food and other bits and bobs, so people can come in and just be with us and feel safe.
Yeah, thanks. So delighted to be here today. We've started working in partnership with the Daisy Programme following their interactions with our communities team. They've been in the community for about 5-6 years now, but necessarily haven't been at the forefront of Breckland's priorities moving forward. But over the last 2 years since we've been working with our communities team, they've become more aware of the activities and the programmes which the Daisy have been involved with, particularly as it's a Breckland related charity. And Breckland over the last year has committed over £1 million to our vulnerability programme, and part of that is to deal with domestic abuse throughout the whole of our community. It started a conversation, and by raising awareness, working in partnership with yourselves, which is fantastic without that branding and getting out in the public, it's starting that conversation. We are aware that it occurs, but it happens behind closed doors. And actually sometimes we may be aware of friends and family who may be susceptible or may be undergoing that type of thing. So be able to have that conversation with those individuals and try and help them to then get the right support so they can extract themselves from what is a really horrendous situation.
What's the process been like with the football club? How did that come about? Tell me a little bit about that.
So we've supported Dereham Football Club for many, many years now, and one of our officers has forged a new relationship with your new chairman, and from that it started that conversation about how we can get Dereham to be more integrated with some of the charity side within not just Dereham but the wider Norfolk as a collective. And the Daisy Programme was a fantastic opportunity. Norwich City have done much the same, raising awareness under domestic abuse. So it was our opportunity working with a local charity in Watton in Breckland to raise awareness with Dereham, our local football club as well. And you have got such a fantastic reputation, not just across Norfolk, but across the eastern region. So it's working hard to lift your profile, piggyback on the back of your reputation to raise that awareness as well. So I think ultimately it's that male macho type domination within the community, and that getting them to understand that they can talk about it. They may be susceptible to domestic abuse as well, but actually making sure that they aren't undertaking it, that their friends and family aren't undergoing it either. So using them as ambassadors out in the community to raise that awareness within where they are, whether it's their friends and family, their work, their community, whatever it may be. But for domestic abuse and through the Daisy Programme as a charity, understanding that there is an inroad and that males are understanding some of the concerns which some females predominantly go through.
Can you sort of outline your plans from your perspective in terms of Breckland Council for the season ahead? I think it's 3 years or something. What are your sort of plans, etc.?
For the council or in relation to domestic?
Both. So
Okay.
in terms of domestic abuse in this sort of programme, but also in general.
Yeah, so Breckland Council's committed over £1 million to our vulnerability programme. We've got some real core themes. One is to combat and target domestic abuse and raise that awareness. We're not going to necessarily eradicate it from our community, but it's starting that conversation. The next phase is about mental health, both within the agricultural community, the youth, and some of our vulnerable members of society. The next part is about county lines. We're prolific across the country for county lines, which is occurring, and we want to make sure that it isn't getting a foothold within our fantastic community of Breckland. And the fourth part, is about isolation, social isolation which occurs, and we're working with the Silver Social Project to raise awareness of that and combat some of that. And that's been going on for 2 years, been a really successful programme. And when I took over as leader last year, I was absolutely committed that we needed to change how Breckland operated rather than just being a statutory service, that we were going out and agitating some of those conversations and making a real change for the residents and across Breckland. So it's had an impact in regards to the speed we wanted to roll the programme out across all those 4 areas, but no, not necessarily. We've had to redistribute some of our officers to other areas to make sure that we're responding to COVID to support both residents and businesses alike. But as we're beginning to come out of the major part of the pandemic at the start of this calendar year and we're moving into our recovery phase, we're absolutely ramping back up again to support activities such as with the Daisy Programme.